Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to this Power 30. My name is Sam Johnson. Our guest today on this Power 30 is none other than Senior Account Executive, Mr. Michael Cannon. Michael, welcome.
Thank you.
We do have some new folks on this call this morning. So if you are new to Power 30, special welcome to you guys. These are quick 30-minute segments on PayTrace, on the industry, just to give you some insight on what's going on and what we're doing in the background. You may notice that the topic for today's call is a little bit of seasonality on 2019. So please come ready with your questions. We want to keep these pretty interactive. So as you get questions, comments, emotional outbursts, please use the Q&A feature on your screen to send in comments for myself or Michael, and we'll take some time as we go through to knock some of those out.
Sounds great.
Sounds good. Love it.
Look forward to some questions.
So you guys may remember Michael. We did one of these with him a few months back, maybe even a year back.
It seems like a long time ago.
It's been a little while. Things have happened recently.
Changes, yeah.
A little bit. November is commonly known for like Thanksgiving, right? It's the month for thanks and appreciation. But for some, it's also the month for elections. And our very own Michael was actually on the ballot.
Careful.
Well, we won't get too political, but tell us a little bit about that.
Our culture at PayTrace is very community oriented. We talk a lot about our team members here being involved in the community, and we try to create a lot of space for that to happen. And so this year there were some seats open on my local school board. My son is a senior in high school, and so I've had a lot of experience with the schools in our area, and it seemed like that was a good way for me to get involved. And there was definitely a need. And so, yeah, so I threw my hat in the ring and ran for school board and won. Yeah.
Woohoo. Congrats.
Thanks.
So when do you officially start then?
I start, they certified the election on November 26th.
Okay.
And then which is just next week. And then the next meeting after that certification is December 9th. And so I'll be sworn in at the start of the meeting, and then I'll get to sit behind the table and be a board member.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you are, your official title is board director.
Board director, I think, is what
board director Cannon. All right. So there you go. Welcome board director.
It's very official.
Michael Cannon.
Yeah.
I forgot to mention this, but you may have noticed we're not in our typical location here today. Typically, yeah, seeing if there's anybody behind us. Typically we're in a studio, a little closed off area. There's a little bit of motion going on behind us. We've got a lot of folks in the office today, and our marketing team decided, hey, let's do like a Good Morning America style PayTrace and open it up. So here we are. If we're a little, people might be coming behind us and waving. So say hi to everybody. But getting into the gist of today, the topic is finishing strong in 2019, right? New Year's approaching. And you've worked in the industry for a while.
Yeah.
So I want to really just share some ideas, right? How can PayTrace help our partners close out the year strong?
Well, this is from a sales perspective. This is the time of year when you're probably, I'm assuming a little bit here, but again, from my sales experience, I think this is probably the case. Salespeople are looking at their pipeline for the year, trying to meet year-end goals, trying to finish strong, trying to, a lot that that I hear about is that people have been trying to close prospective sales throughout the year. Maybe sales cycles are languishing a little bit, and so there's just a couple little ideas that I think might help toward the end of the year. Either bring those across the finish line, or just clear them out of the pipeline, which sometimes is valuable as closing the deal. One idea is that we sometimes as salespeople go in what I might call a little pitch heavy. We lead with the pitch, and we don't take the time to stop and ask qualifying questions, and so we get a little bit discouraged when someone gives us a nebulous answer, not a yes or no. It's a lot of, oh, come back later, or I'll get back to you in a month, and pretty soon it's November instead of May, and we've had that conversation a couple times. And so something you can do is try to narrow their focus a little bit, by asking questions and uncovering their pain. Sometimes that's a prospect might just not understand their need for what you're trying to sell them. And so a strategy could be to help them uncover that need or uncover the pain they're experiencing by not letting you solve their problem. And then the sale becomes easier because you can then fill that need that you've helped them uncover. And it's a different strategy than just going in with a sales pitch, I guess, without really identifying that up front. So I mentioned just closing or arriving at a yes or no. Sometimes resolution of a prospect is just as relieving as a sale. We all like to close sales, but sometimes a no is as valuable as a yes. You just want to get to whether they're going to buy or not, and if not, move on to the next prospect.
Yeah. So I think the best answer that you can get from a prospect, right, is a yes, of course.
Of course.
But the second best is a no.
Is a clear no.
Yeah. It's the best thing that you can do, right? Yeah. You don't want to string that along, keep the sales cycle going when it's really going to end up not happening.
Right.
So you had mentioned this thing about asking more qualifying questions, right? What do you have any examples of what some of these types of questions, these types of things that we can learn to uncover some of these merchants' pain might be?
Sure. It's not complicated. I mean, they're not kind of secret sauce type questions, but just clarifying questions. Just when a prospect will describe their process or their need, and you could say, well, tell me more about that. When you say X, what exactly do you mean? And just get them to uncover a little bit more about their need. And so questions like, tell me more about that, or what do you mean by that, or what does that cost you in terms of dollars? That problem that you described, what does that mean for you, and how does that make your process harder? And just simple questions like that just get them to reveal a little bit more definition about what they're saying.
Yeah, it's fun. Oh no,
who's that? Look at that, a little visitor.
Oh, Eric Jenks. Eric Jenks saying hi to his mom. How about that? Eric Jenks making a cameo. I told you there'd be some disruption. So it's funny that to get back to it, you were talking a little bit about just asking just more questions in general, right? We don't want to be talking. We want to be creating dialogue.
Right.
So one thing, is there more people? No. Okay. So one thing, an example that I had recently on a merchant demo, which was kind of cool, was we were getting into it with the rep and with the merchant, and they were talking a lot about having to build out this pretty lengthy integration for their invoicing and getting a hold of their customers and all this stuff. And it sounded like it would take a lot of development work. I just asked more questions like, hey, what does this process actually look like? And it turned out that our new payment link was actually kind of like the perfect feature for them. And it was already pre-built and ready to go. So it's just asking the right questions to hopefully simplify and just learn more about what their real needs are.
Yeah.
Right?
We see that a fair amount because in this industry, there's a lot of buzzwords, or there's a lot of terms that can mean different things to different people. So it never hurts to just, it might seem like it's asking a stupid question, but it's really not. I mean, it's just, there's a lot of value in just asking simple clarifying questions. What exactly do you mean by that term? Because it could mean something different to them than it means to you. And we don't want to assume and lose a sale just because there was a slight difference in how we understood something that if we would have clarified, oh, we can meet that need, just like you said.
Exactly. I'm kind of curious, and I have a question to our partners. We have a poll that we want to launch. This is in regards to where you're currently at in 2019, right? We've got about a month left of active selling. Where do you stand, right? Are you at your goal? Have you met it? Do you still have a little bit of ways to go? Let us know, right? We want to see how you're doing this year and if there's opportunity to help out with that. So let's take about, 10 seconds to leave this up here and just get some data from you guys, right?
For those viewing at home, I keep looking over here because there's a super cool giant screen over here that we can see the results of the survey and questions and all that. So pardon me for not looking you in the eye, but this is quite a studio we have set up here, just so you know.
It's pretty cool. All right, let's go ahead and shut down that poll. Appreciate your help, guys. It looks like we've got a pretty good mix on here, right? Some of you guys are doing great, but it looks like we still have some work in some areas. So, right, for those of you that still have that gap that you need to fill, let us know, right? We want to help you guys be successful. So, Michael, we talked a little bit about how can we close some of these deals? How can we get them off the fence a little bit quicker, right? We want to get moving on that pipeline. What can we do about just generating revenue in general? Is there any way that we can do that with quick hits?
That's a good question, because in addition to meeting goals, or if the topic we're talking about is meeting your year-end goal, of course, new sales help to do that. And so that's what we've been talking about, is how to bring those sales either across the finish line or clear them out of the pipeline. But the point is revenue, right? So maybe you have a component of your goal that's new, certain number of new sales, and so that's one thing. But if we're talking about just revenue, there could be some quick way. There is one quick way at the end of the year to bring that revenue goal across the finish line, and that's look within your existing portfolio for ways that you can increase your margin. And by what we've seen a lot of this, by converting clients that use other gateways, or clients that maybe use other solutions that would benefit better from using a gateway, by converting them to PayTrace, we can optimize their interchange. So we're saving them less on interchange, and that enables you to increase your margin at the same time. So the merchant, it's a year-end Christmas gift from you, in the sense that you're helping them save money on their interchange, so much so that you can actually increase your profit margin at the same time, because that spread between, you know, the higher interchange they were paying and the lower interchange that you're helping them achieve is enough that you can both benefit. So those conversions can be a quick revenue boost at the end of the year.
Yeah, and it's funny because I was talking to you a little bit about this before the call, but we actually just had an example of one of our partners doing this yesterday, which is kind of cool. It was a trucking company, right? They've had this merchant in their portfolio for a while using a different solution, and turns out they were taking majority commercial cards, right? And what ended up happening was they did a statement review and saw that they were paying 2.7% plus 35 basis points on all of these commercial cards that they were accepting. And what this rep did is they moved them over to PayTrace, and now they're paying 1.95%, but they marked up that margin to 50 basis points. So they increased their margin 50 bips, reduced that wholesale, that interchange cost, and they're saving the merchant something like $730 a month. Like, that's huge.
That's huge. That's pretty amazing.
Right.
I'm glad you mentioned that in the trucking industry. We do very well in auto dealers, trucking industries, wholesaling. We're a B2B focused gateway, and so that's right in our wheelhouse.
Yeah.
But something else that comes to mind when you mention that kind of a number in terms of savings, I think a mistake that some sales reps make, we all as sales reps can make it, is that we focus too much on small pricing wins. Meaning, we think that if we go in the door and offer someone, $5 less, they're going to switch to us. Or conversely, we're concerned that if a competitor comes in and offers, $10 less a month, we're being distracted again. Nice.
Yep. Our CEO, Scott Judkins, is in the background there. Everybody say hi, Scott. Sorry, Michael.
Oh, that's right. So price is not the way that you want to sell in this case. I mean, the savings far outweigh a difference of $5 or $10 a month or a few cents of transactions. And so it gets you out of that price compression scenario where you're trying to just beat the competition all the time. And it's, we've heard the term, it's a race to the bottom, and it really is. But when you're talking about that kind of savings, it pales those other little conversations about, monthly fees and setup and what, I mean, they more than make up for that in days.
Yeah. I think it's fair to say that seasonality actually makes a pretty big deal when we're talking about these types of conversations that we can have with merchants,
Yep.
right? We're at the end of the year, right? What are some of the reasons to start talking to some of these merchants right now?
This is a great time to focus on B2B because professional offices, trying to think of other industries, wholesalers, auto dealerships, manufacturers. This isn't necessarily their busy time of year. Retail, we all know this is the crazy time of year, right? The holidays, and a lot of companies actually go into freezes where they don't touch their systems. They don't want any changes. They just want to focus on their core competency, which is, selling whatever and bringing in revenue. So this isn't a good time of year for retail, but it can be a great time of year for B2B, because as these larger businesses are focused on winding down the year, setting their goals for next year, they're looking at cost savings abilities, they're looking at systems, changes or upgrades, or they're looking to optimize their processes. And so now's a great time to get in the door and see what their plans are for next year. And these types of businesses, the sales cycles, as you know, can be longer. So sometimes you're not going to, talk them into making a change in the next few weeks, but it might be, Q1 of next year. Let's have a strategic conversation about how next year is going to play out and where that fits into our strategy. This is a great time of year to start those conversations.
Yeah.
So.
Right. Let's not just set yourself for a great finish in 2019, but let's get prepared for 2020.
Exactly.
Right. Let's start the year strong, so you're not stressing about this time next year. Right.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
I do have a kind of a homework assignment, or just a general assignment for all of our viewers here today, but we want to learn a little bit more about some of the scenarios that you're running into currently. Michael brings a wealth of knowledge within PayTrace and just the industry itself. So if you are struggling, or you're kind of have merchants on the fence, you're trying to figure out what the best fit for them is, let us know. We want to hear some of that data. So wiggle your mouse around, pull up that QA box, and start typing in those scenarios, because we've got about 15 minutes left on here. Let's use this time to help you become some more successcul, right? Finish out this year strong. So I do want to see.
Do we have a couple questions that we want to go to right now, or?
I just want to plug this in as people are writing this in, see if we had anything. It never ceases to amaze me how every time we do these Power30, somebody's got to talk about wardrobe. I'm rocking some PayTrace swag today, and a question from Todd. What's up, Todd? I know Todd very well. Todd wants to know, how can he get one of these snazzy PayTrace shirts? I'd be willing to do a trade deal, Todd. If you've got a snazzy ISO shirt from your company, I know you got some cool branding. Let's do a swap. Let us know. Let's make it happen.
We would also be willing to trade swag for new accounts too. If you want to sell
I like that.
An account within the next month, I think we could probably throw a shirt your way.
We might be able to. Yeah, our marketing manager is smiling right now, so I think we can get away with that. So another question here from Butch. Butch is a Power30 regular on here. Love Butch. Butch wants to know, how can PayTrace be leveraged as a gateway for e-commerce like Authorize.net? And I'm happy to jump in there if you'd like me to add some color to it.
Okay, why don't you start?
I'll start it off. So a lot of you guys use Auth.net, right? They're a very large gateway. They've got a lot of these integrations to help make merchants more efficient. PayTrace is no different, right? You may have seen our ISV manager, Kevin Hurd, on here talking about some integrations. You've seen some of the ISV spotlights. We have a lot of these e-commerce integrations that are plug and play for merchants that are already using things like 3D Cart, right? WooCommerce, Magento, a lot of these big players. PayTrace can plug right in as that back-end engine. And what kind of separates us from a technology like Auth.net is we're doing that interchange optimization, right, automatically. So essentially, you plug a merchant in on PayTrace instead of Auth.net, and we can help reduce those wholesale costs right away.
Yeah, that's a good point. When you mentioned
Kevin's watching this right now, and he heard his name called out, so he had to make an appearance. So yeah. Kevin Hurd.
Hey, Kevin.
Sorry, man. Go ahead. We keep interrupting you.
Oh, that's right. Since you mentioned e-commerce, the first thing that came to mind is I wonder what they're selling. I wonder what the commerce that's happening. Yeah. What is the product that they're selling? Because whenever I hear e-commerce, there's a certain amount of business cards, corporate cards, commercial cards that are going to be in that card mix. And so the higher that B2B scenario is, the more advantageous PayTrace is going to be.
Oh, absolutely. I'd even say even the ones that are still largely just consumer driven though, we've worked with a lot of ticketing companies.
For sure, yeah.
And who the heck buys tickets? It's individuals, right? But every now and then a business card squeezes in there and it's like, all right, cool. Yeah, we're creating a lot of value there. Yeah. So it kind of goes both sides, I'd say. Let's go ahead and take out, oh my gosh, you guys flooded the Q&A box. This is awesome. Elaine has a great question here. I think this is super relevant. So Elaine's saying that most of her B2B merchants are too busy with year end right now, and won't even to want to even listen to this. What are some good ways to overcome this challenge?
Well, I mean, that's a real challenge, and it depends on what type of merchants they are, I guess. Some, I mean, some who are closer to the retail type merchants, maybe it's not a good time of year for them. I mean, I'm not going to tell you that you can always overcome that hurdle, because if it's just not a good time, there's not, some things are out of our control, some things are in our control, and we want to help the things that are in our control as much as we can. But I feel for you. That's, when they are in that position where it's just not a good time, I would say just find one that is a good time. I mean, that's it probably speaks to the type of merchant that they are. So
yeah, if year end's not working for them, let's get an appointment on the calendar for 2020.
Yeah,
right. Yeah, let's just preemptively get that set up.
Seems kind of like an unsatisfying answer. I'm sorry, but I don't have a magic bullet for that one.
Yeah, that's a tricky challenge, right? That's one of the biggest challenges that we have to overcome. So it's worth calling that out. Appreciate that, Elaine. My questions keep jumping around. I'm sorry if I'm going out of order, guys. Rennie has a great question here. I think you mentioned car dealerships, Michael, when we were talking about kind of B2B wholesale, things like that. Parts are wholesale, but what about other departments? How does PayTrace fit in really well with dealerships?
We fit in pretty well with that model because they have different methods of accepting cards that we can accommodate. So at one of their counters, for example, they might have face-to-face customers coming in paying with a card in person, and they want an EMV solution, so they can plug in a EMV device into the laptop and take cards face-to-face. They also might have a back office operation where people are leasing or paying over the phone, or calling in for paying service invoices, or whatever the process is. Car dealerships tend to have a variety of ways that they accept cards, and we can accommodate all of those. And so that's why it's a good fit for that industry.
I've also noticed that some dealerships actually have separate mids for their different departments, that they actually have different businesses. So the service is going to have one mid, sales is going to have one mid, right? Parts. And PayTrace can also link those accounts together. Right?
It's really easy to bounce back and forth between them. Actually, it's very simple.
Yeah. So just kind of creating efficiency is a big value for these guys as well. Melina has a question here. What's the best way to approach doctors' offices and lawyers?
The best way to approach them, that's a good question. I mean, what comes to mind is a couple different perspectives in answering that, I guess, just in terms of, calling on them. I tend to be a big fan of networking. If you can start within a network of people, we all have a doctor or a lawyer. And so start with your own,
Oh no. Welcome our client support team, everybody. Our client support team was told that we were doing the Power30 today, and they wanted to be on here. So say hi to Josh Stubb and Isaac Magda if you guys have talked to them on the phone. Awesome guys. Interrupting us. I love it. This is fun. I don't know if we can make this every single time that we do this call, but this is a fun one. Yeah. So again, interrupting.
Yeah. I'll see if I can begin my train of thought, but
I'd say with regards to professional offices, I do a course on this. They're one of the trickiest ones to figure out how to get in contact with. Gatekeepers are super stringy sometimes. They're getting called all the time on salespeople. So I think you're exactly right, Michael. Referral-based selling is going to be big.
Yeah, referral-based in your own network. Every time I go to the dentist or talk to my lawyer or accountant or something, if it comes up in a natural way in the conversation, hey, I noticed that, I'm paying you with a credit card. How do you take credit cards? Because that's what I do. And maybe I can help you. Make it kind of a organic conversation that just is helpful to them, instead of like a sales call. That might be when you encounter gatekeepers who are a little bit more difficult to get past, if they sense that it's a little bit pitchy or salesy. But if it's a more just natural, hey, I'm a client of yours. I'm curious generally if we can help each other.
Yeah, I think it's also worth having some case studies, best practices, some stories to tell. with similar types of merchants. If you've worked with other doctors and lawyers, having those in your back pocket can typically help make that process a little bit simpler. So yeah, great question. Thank you. How are we doing on time? We've got a few minutes left. I'll go ahead and take, oh my goodness, there's so many.
There's like a novel in there.
We'll go ahead and take maybe one or two more and kind of close this out. So if you haven't gotten your questions in, get it now, because following this call, we will actually follow up with anybody that we didn't answer, and follow up with you guys one-on-one, and have that conversation. So question, this is a good one. This is actually a common question that we get a lot from Debbie. Debbie's asking, do we perform statement analysis? Sometimes it's hard to know the exact level 2 and level 3 savings. And if not, do we have any guides that we can reference?
I'm going to answer that a little delicately.
Okay.
We do have a resource. So in the literal sense of your question, do we do statement analysis? The answer is we don't go that far. And part of the reason for that is we have a number of different partners who price differently. And so it's difficult in our position to try to anticipate all of those different pricing methods. And so instead of going that far to actually do the analysis, we try to provide as many resources and tools as we can. On our website, there's a section called, what's it called? Love of money or interchange optimization.
Interchange optimization.
Yeah. There, you'll find several charts, a good description of interchange and kind of what interchange optimization means. I will tease the idea a little bit about, we get that question a lot. I mean, that's core to what we do. And so we want to help as much as we can with that understanding. And so we're aware that in the market, they're starting to pop up vendors who do just that. And so we're exploring, what would a partnership or collaboration look like where we can incorporate someone who does that functionality without having to build it all out on our own. And so, just watch for that, listen for that in the months ahead. I mean, certainly we're open to feedback and want to, again, help as much as we can in that area. But yeah, so little teaser there for that. That is a part of our thought process, though.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll take one more question before we wrap up, and I'm looking for just kind of a quick one that we can knock out. Martha has one. Is PayTrace a good option for a large building contractor?
Absolutely. We do. Yeah. I'm thinking of a list of SIT codes right now, actually, and there's a bunch of different on our reporting that we see, what SIT codes and markets are we processing the most volume for. There's a lot of different categories for contractors, HVAC contractors and building contractors and large. And so especially larger contractors, commercial contractors that do a lot of B2B transactions, they're building commercial buildings for other big businesses. If there is a need to pay with credit card, we absolutely are a great fit for that.
Yeah, that's actually one of our most popular ones. So guys, that's all the time that we have for questions right now. I do want to wrap it up with a couple last minute thoughts. Michael and the rest of our sales team have been working pretty diligently to finish this year strong and reaching out and connecting with our partners. We want to get alignment on our roadmaps with your roadmaps and learn what your strategies are going forward. Did you want to just mention anything really quickly on that?
We'd love to have conversations with as many of you as we can. So we're proactively reaching out to try to set up, just conversations that last a few minutes, nothing formal, but we're interested in your feedback and want to let you know about what we're working on. So feel free to reach out to us as well. I mean, don't wait for an invitation necessarily, but if that's something you'd like to talk about sooner than later, reach out to us. We'd be happy to set up something like that. One last thing, if I might, before you mentioned Thanksgiving. As we wrap up, I wanted to also we have a lot of resellers on the call, and just in general, a lot of really great partners and resellers that I wanted to just say that we're thankful for your partnership. We have a lot of resellers, new and old, that have been with us for many years, and then that have just joined us. And we don't take those partnerships for granted. We genuinely are thankful for your input, your partnership, your working with us. I mean, everything that you bring to the table and that allows us to, be a partner with you. Thank you. We are truly thankful for that.
Yeah. Well said, Michael. Yeah. Cool. Thanks, guys. We are at time, so we're going to wrap this up. Again, thank you guys so much for hopping on today's call. Want to let you know we are going to have another Power30 right before the holidays next month, and we may or may not have a special visitor from the North Pole.
Ooh.
So come check it out. Stay tuned for that.
Bearded celebrity.
Yeah, you'll see. It's gonna be fun. Michael, thanks, man. It's
Thanks,
always
Sam.
fun,
Always fun.
and we'll see you guys on the next one.